We're closely watching a new C-suite shakeup play out. Starbucks shares in the green by 15% this morning after the coffee chain named Brian Niccol as its next chairman and CEO. Niccol, who you'll remember has been with Chipotle as their CEO since 2018, is going to join Starbucks on September 9th. Here to weigh in on the announcement, we've got Yahoo Finance executive editor Brian Sozzi and senior reporter Brooke DiPalma here. I mean, look, the shock that the brand of the green siren perhaps wasn't ready for this morning, at least investors in it, but also for Chipotle, there's going to be a significant kind of seat change there, and we'll see how that shakes out. Let's go to Starbucks first here and what we're seeing.
Yeah, so this was a recent decision. The company told Yahoo Finance that this was fairly recent. And it's important to note here that according to the company, this was an opportunity that they couldn't pass up. This was a decision made by the board of directors. And in addition to that, it also did have a bit of an influence from Schultz. Now, it's important to note here that former CEO and founder Howard Schultz has not been on the board since last September. But at the very tail end of the recruitment process, Howard Schultz did have a meeting with Brian Niccol once the board had already, seems like, made the decision to name him the next CEO. Now, this comes after former CEO Howard Schultz, called on Starbucks to do a major overhaul strategy back in May. This comes after the second straight quarter of same-store sales decline for Starbucks, and also as you had that ongoing pressure from two activists, Elliott Investment Management, as well as Starboard Value as of last Friday. And so investors really pleased on this news, and Starbucks expects the same response from shareholders.
Oh, wow, I just came running on this set because I was working on our Invest conference, guys. I was doing other things today. A couple things I will add this. First, what you're seeing is a Starbucks company that we all know and that we go to. This is a company in crisis. I just wrote about Starbucks last Sunday for the morning, or about a week ago for the Morning Brief newsletter. A lot of people that I were talking to inside the company and familiar with the inner workings of this company, saying the company is directionless. That Lax, who got publicly embarrassed on a competitor network by my former boss Jim Cramer about a month ago, he was unlikely to survive that type of very public embarrassment. Was not a good look for him whatsoever. I'm also told that Starboard, which reportedly has a position in this company, person familiar with the thinking of Jeff Smith, telling me that this Brian Niccol is an amazing choice, and I would second that. Brian Niccol, I've followed his entire career going back to Taco Bell. Extensive board experience, had a good amount of board experience over at Harley-Davidson. He was recently, Brooke, as you know, was just added to the board of Walmart. So he is taking over another chairman position over at Starbucks. And then secondarily, let's keep in mind the work that he has done at Chipotle. He came in there right in the middle of that E. coli crisis. The stock, under a lot of pressure, worked a little bit with founder Steve Ells to get the brand going in the right direction. So this is a very accomplished, growth-oriented CEO, and Brian Niccol. And then I will also add this, the Howard Schultz era at Starbucks officially ends today, and that is a very good thing. It's about time that Howard Schultz gets out of that C-suite. He's chairman emeritus. He still has a parking spot at the company's headquarters. It's time for all these things to go. It's time for Brian Niccol to clean house and start thinking about life after Howard Schultz. Let's get it done. Let's make Starbucks great again, folks.
What do you think Starbucks is going to look like under Niccol? And it's very early to ask that, but I bring that up because given the success that you were just talking about from Chipotle, the number of things that he's instituted just in terms of some of the technological advances that have obviously really worked out for Chipotle, the culture, something that maybe Starbucks is lacking at this time. What do you think, any idea just in terms of how he's going to navigate that transition, or maybe what Starbucks is ultimately going to look like here over the next couple of years?
Mission critical number one. I think what you'll see over Brian, just having studied his career, first 90 days, he's going to get an understanding of the operations of the business, where there are holes and places he can fix. But number one for Brian, just studying him, he is very culture-oriented. This is someone that is championing a different way of doing business and treating employees inside Chipotle. Brooke, you know this too. I mean, you have store managers, people that start on the front lines of Chipotle, making well over $100,000 a year, becoming store managers of multiple stores. Brian Niccol is a culture champion, and Howard Schultz has not. Howard Schultz, when he came back as interim CEO, was tone deaf to a lot of the challenges that Starbucks employees are dealing with. Of course, Brooke, you've been covering the labor movement inside of Starbucks as well. Brian Niccol, I think, is going to finally solve the culture problem at Starbucks. at the store level, and it's something they have to do if they want to improve their operations.
And this is also a question for both of you here, but you see the excitement playing out for Starbucks here in the pre-market. Flip that over and take a look at shares of Chipotle. Actually, they're under a pretty good amount of pressure here this morning. Chipotle without Brian Niccol at the helm. How worrisome is that for investors?
Don't sleep. We have Jack Hartung, Brooke, as you know, now taking over as interim CEO of Chipotle. He was supposed to retire. We just talked to him about 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago after earnings. So he was supposed to retire a little bit, perhaps look for his next gig. Yeah. Jack Hartung has been there since day one with Steve Ells. He knows what he's doing, so don't expect any big changes at Chipotle anytime soon.
Yeah, and Chipotle investors, since Brian Niccol has joined the team, shares are up nearly 780%. And so when you think about the excitement that the investor community has around Brian Niccol and his leadership, it's clearly showing in today's pressure, now roughly flat. But ultimately what we're seeing here is Brian Niccol just recently did a stock split. There's lots of excitement. Also lots of excitement among employees to be able to get in on such a successful business, have a share in the company. And so I think, like our Brian noted, I think that'll definitely bring that excitement over to Starbucks, something that Starbucks really has struggled with and really does need here. That excitement among employees and also the consumer base. You want a company that's widely talked about for the right reasons.
All right.
Brian Niccol, just lower prices. Give me $1 Starbucks cold brew coffee. And I think Brian could do it. I think he could do it.
Burrito, $12 coffee.
Go get it, Brian.
All right, well, Saz and Brooke, the two perfect people to have on set here with us to break down the story. Thanks so much to you both for helping us make sense of all of this.